So this is it, Dan. The end of an era. Edinburgh 94, Tottenham Social, Four Kings Dunstable FC. 3 different names, but always one club.
So as we can now reflect on 21 years of fantastic memories, it's amazing to think that over the years there have literally been hundreds of people lucky enough to pull on the shirt for this great club. And the reason it's so great is down to one person who we'd like to pay tribute to. Club secretary, club captain, manager, and quite simply our ambassador, Andrew McLean-Hall.
Tooth played a fundamental part along with Graham, Noddy Howard and Dave Tibballs, forming Edinburgh 94 back in the early summer of 1994, of course. Many thought we would live in the shadow of the Swan Northall, the recognised team on the green, but a pre-season 2-0 friendly win over our rivals put that myth to bed and formed the start of this wonderful journey.
Whilst Dave Tibballs managed and captained the team, Tooth was already pulling the strings behind the scenes, ensuring that the club was run properly whilst recruiting a mix of old faces and new blood. Not sure how many of the players Tooth can remember, but the class of 94 included
James Marchant,
Darren Keane,
Ray Harris,
Ben Wright,
Jeff Shepherd,
Alan Randall,
Ash Simmons,
Ian Mitchell,
Graham Howard,
Martin Kelly,
John Dennison,
Dick Harris,
Steve Simmons,
Andrew Main, also known as Benny,
and of course Tooth. So as the first few seasons passed, we rarely threatened to win any silverware as our results were inconsistent at best, but Tooth was always our standout player, composed on the ball, hard in the tackle, but always fair. In fact, not many people know, but in over 300 games for the club, he was not booked once, which demonstrates both the respect he offered to his opponents and a high level of skill.
During these 3 or 4 seasons, Tooth was rightly awarded on separate occasions both Players' Player of the Year and Managers' Player of the Year. Not only was Tooth setting the standard on the pitch, but also off the pitch, as Edinburgh 94 had quickly built up a really good reputation with the other teams, being we were one of the few clubs to share a pint or two in the host local pub, and with the league for being such a superbly run organisation.
This reputation with the league is the same now as it was 20 years ago, and I can assure you this is down to the great man. If our exposure within our league was positive, what was about to unfold during the 98-99 season was simply going to put Edinburgh 94 and the Leighton Sunday League on the map and put Tooth's interviewing skills to the test.
I'm sure most of you know the story. We lost our first 6 games of the season. Game 7, Jamie forgets his underwear. Jamie borrows a pair of knickers. We win. Next week, 3 or 4 players, including our leader, wear knickers and bras, and we win again. For the next 4 weeks, all the players wear knickers and bras, and we win every game. Throughout this somewhat disturbing yet exciting period of our lives, we're making both the front and back pages of all the local newspapers when the call comes in from the Sun newspaper. 3 days later, we're splattered all over page 3, Tooth's head perfectly aligned next to Joe, 23, from Maidstone's left hip.
The next Sunday, we are filmed by German channel RTL getting prepared at my house before a game on the green, and we win, which is also covered by Anglian News, followed by the Saturday after, a day at the BBC, where we appeared on Noel's House Party. How many Sunday morning teams can claim all that? Huge credit must go to Tooth, who was constantly on the phone to journalists, producers, radio stations and the BBC, and somehow gave this whole ridiculous scenario an air of credibility.
He effectively became our agent, negotiating £500 from the German channel and sensibly turning down the offer for the team to appear on the Vanessa show. Great times and all coordinated brilliantly by Tooth.
Over this period of time, we saw some old faces leave, but welcomed a number of new players. Tooth, do you remember?
Lee Jagger,
Neil Drip Hildreth,
Darryl Horn,
Dave Hyde,
Peter Quelch,
Andrew Trantham,
Paul Tommy Ellison,
Declan Meenham,
Neil Own Goal Marchant,
Dave Tiffin,
Giles Griffiths,
John Power,
Adrian Roberts,
Lee Lowsby,
Mick Lowsby,
Danny Meenan,
Danny Shepherd,
Stuart Chaplin,
Andy Batista,
Brian Rasmussen,
Joe Carney,
and of course club legend Jamie Mitchell. The club has had a number of characters over the years, but none more so than Jamie, and we must thank Jamie for encouraging so many new players to join, having heard about his plonker-pulling shower initiation. We should also mention Alan Randall, one of the few players to have played every season since our formation.
Tooth was also instrumental in organising, after a long hard season, trips to sunnier climates, Benidorm, Ireland and Magaluf, and whilst we must honour the what goes on tour stays on tour, we often saw a slightly different side to Tooth. So whilst we'll not elaborate, let's just take a couple of seconds to reflect on our trip away.
What's it, Dan?
Cheers.
Further seasons passed, old players went and new came in. Again, we consolidated our league position without winning silverware. Managers came and went, Dave Tibballs, Ted Bowers and Jeff Shepherd. And whilst they brought in new ideas and formations, Tooth was the first name on their team sheet and was always their choice of captain.
The legend that is Jeff Shepherd got us to our first two cup finals, firstly in the 2002-2003 season and then in the 2005-2006 season. Unfortunately, we found ourselves on the losing side on both occasions, but our performances on the pitch were on the up, and some would argue that Tooth, despite entering the twilight of his career, was getting better. Unfortunately, Tooth's knees gave up before his footballing brain, and he had to make the difficult decision to hang up his boots.
Fair to say, whilst we were going to enjoy some success on the pitch, things were not going to be the same. We enter the 2006-2007 season under the new leadership of our first ever foreign coach, Steve Parler, who brings in players such as James Baldry, Mark Smith, Brett Dean and the charming James McCarthy. In a very competitive Division 2 we played some fantastic football, gaining promotion to Division 1 for the first time, finishing second only to Oban Sand Wanderers.
Better still, we got to the Divisional Cup final, running out easy winners against MK87 and earning our first ever winners' trophy. Questions were starting to be asked. Why the hell did we keep that old tosser Tooth at the club for so long? He was clearly holding us back.
Having spent a year away, Tooth informed Steve that he would be available for the 2007-2008 season in the event that we were ever short. Steve immediately began to try and recruit new players. One new player that arrived was Stephen Tracy. Not the most reliable person in the world, but when he played, this guy was serious.
He reminded us of Tooth's favourite ever Edlesborough player, Sixto. The step up to Division 1 was a comfortable one for us, and whilst we were never going to win the league, Stevie Luigi once again guided us to the Divisional Cup final, where we would find ourselves underdogs against the much-fancied murderers and rapists at Aylesbury Prison.
The Prison couldn't cope with our attacking football, and 2 goals apiece from Stefan and John Power saw us run out 4-0 winners. Special mention must go to Callum Scott and Alex Worth. Nice guys, but thick as shit. Steve left his role at the end of the 2008-2009 season, at which point the club decided to take a year out. The following year the team had reformed with a number of new faces and a new manager, Jamie Mitchell. Jamie brought with him some very different ideas. And whilst I'm not being critical of his selection process, Dan and Damo up front didn't cause too many defensive problems. So let's just move on.
Cometh the 2011-2012 season, cometh the man. Our new manager unveiled to the team, Mr Andrew McLean Hall. We'd also moved pitches and now playing out at Dunstable Cricket Club, which boasted the best pitch in the league. Despite playing some excellent football and the addition of some exciting new players, Scott, OAP Covington, Danny Sunderland, Ben Tye and Tom Smallcock Aird, our opponents particularly enjoyed playing on the pitch and we struggled at home.
Tooth did, however, achieve something no manager before had ever done. He guided the team to the Jack Jones Cup final, where he narrowly lost 3-2 to everyone's favourite team, Stanbridge and Tilsworth. Let's not forget that goal by Sam Baldry.
Stunning. 2012-2013 season. What a season. We lost 3 of the first 5 games and then go and win the next 17 league games. We were champions for the first time in our history and by some margin. Tooth had shaped an incredibly capable squad, but got his formation spot on, and the spirit of the club was as good as I can ever remember.
The banter in the bar was at its very best, and we must thank my colleague Dan for his open goal miss, which often prompted the inevitable piss-taking. 2013-14 saw us back in Division 1 where we belonged, and straight away it became clear that Tooth's style of football was going to give us a chance to compete. As it goes, we finished just above mid-table and in the semi-finals of both the Jack Jones Cup and the County Cup. An impressive performance by anyone's standards.
Last season was a tough one. Tooth continued to do a fantastic job, but was seriously hampered by injuries to a number of key players. With the average age of the squad going the wrong way, the incredibly difficult decision to fold the club was made. Now, we all take it for granted that Tooth turns up every Sunday morning, picks 11 players, job done. That's absolutely not the case. He thinks about how people have played, he thinks about where their strongest position is, and if you've ever been dropped, it's always under a number of considerations. Tooth has always done what's right for the club, whether secretary, captain or manager.
Let's not forget either that he travels back from Southend every Sunday to do this, and has also had a very, very difficult last year. I would also like to thank everyone here tonight, the class of 2015, for all your contributions.
Tom,
Toby,
Tick,
Rob,
Alan,
Tomo,
Jamie,
Ben,
Sam,
Lee,
Damo,
Kingy,
Dino,
Danny,
Liam,
Steve,
Shane,
and Dan.
and Bakey. Thank
Thanks.
you.
I would like you all to raise a glass for two men who are sadly no longer with us, but both played a part on and off the pitch, Ted Bowers and Matt Wallace. Absent friends. Tooth, it's been an absolute pleasure being part of this fantastic club. You have put so much time and effort building this fantastic reputation, and there is simply no other team I would have liked to have been involved in. Tooth, finally, we would like to show you our gratitude for all the effort and commitment you have shown over the last 21 years. It gives me great pleasure to award you the Four Kings Dunstable FC Lifetime Achievement Award. Well done.